He was not supposed to be there. Everyone in his village knew about the Forbidden Valley. The elders spoke about it in low voices. Hunters avoided it. Soldiers never crossed its stone line. People said the valley did not forgive humans. Many had entered. None had returned. But that evening, he was chasing a wounded deer. The animal ran past the stone line. He stopped at the edge. He should have turned back. The sun was setting. The sky was red. The wind was cold and quiet. Then he heard it. A soft sound. Not a roar. Not a growl. A cry. It was weak. Slow. Full of pain. He froze. His heart started beating fast. He looked behind him. The forest was empty. The sound came again. It was not an animal. It sounded almost human. He swallowed hard and stepped over the stone line. The air inside the valley felt different. Heavy. Thick. The trees were taller. The ground was broken like something huge had fallen from the sky. As he walked deeper, he saw something strange. Large footprints. Not animal footprints. Not human footprints. They were massive. The trees around him were snapped in half. The earth was cracked. It looked like a battle had happened. Then he saw her. At first, he thought he was dreaming. She was lying between two giant rocks. A giant girl, at least 4 times taller than him. Her long silver hair was spread across the ground like moonlight. Her skin looked pale against the dark earth. One of her wings, yes, wings, was broken and twisted. A huge spear was stuck in her side. There was blood on the ground. His breath stopped. She was beautiful, but she was dying. He took a slow step forward. Her chest moved weakly. She was alive. Suddenly, her eyes opened. Bright blue. Not angry. Not wild. Afraid. She tried to move, but she could not. Her hand slowly lifted, as if to protect herself. She thought he was there to kill her. He raised his empty hands to show he had no weapon ready. "I won't hurt you," he whispered. Of course, she could not understand his words. But maybe she understood his voice. Then he heard something that made his blood turn cold. Heavy footsteps. Boom! 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 The ground shook. He turned around quickly. Voices echoed through the valley. Deep voices. Rough voices. Hunters. But not human hunters. These steps were too heavy. They were coming back. They had left her here to die. And now they were returning to make sure she was dead. He looked at the broken spear in her side. It was not a normal spear. It was too large for humans. Someone had hunted her and failed to finish the job. The footsteps were getting closer. He had seconds to decide. If he ran now, he could still escape. He could return to his village. Forget what he saw. Live a normal life. No one would ever know. But if he stayed, if the hunters found him helping her, they would kill him. Or worse. He looked at her again. Her breathing was weak. Her eyes were slowly closing. She was losing strength. He made his choice. He ran toward her. He grabbed the spear with both hands. It was heavy, but he pulled with all his strength. She cried out in pain as the spear slid free. Blood flowed faster. He quickly tore his shirt and pressed it against her wound. "Stay alive," he whispered. The heavy footsteps were now very close. He could see shadows between the trees. He looked around quickly and saw a deep crack in the rocks behind her. A hiding place. But she was too big to move easily. He touched her hand. Her skin was warm. The moment his fingers touched her palm, something strange happened. A bright light flashed between them. He felt a burning pain in his hand. He pulled back, shouting. On his skin, a glowing mark appeared. A strange symbol. It burned like fire. Her eyes suddenly opened wide. Not with fear, with shock. The ground shook again as the hunters stepped into the clearing. Tall figures covered in dark armor. They stopped when they saw him standing beside her. A human, touching the fallen giant. One of the armored hunters spoke in a deep voice. "You." The air felt frozen. The mark on his hand glowed brighter. The giant girl slowly moved her hand and placed it over him, trying to shield him with her weak body. She was protecting him. The hunter raised his massive weapon. "You have chosen the wrong side, human." The mark burned even hotter. And in that moment, he understood something terrible. The light that connected them was not just healing. It was binding. There was no turning back now. The Forbidden Valley had made its choice. And so had he. The armored hunter stepped forward. The ground shook under his weight. The human boy did not move. The giant girl's weak hand was still above him, trying to shield him. Her fingers trembled, but she refused to pull back. The glowing mark on his hand burned brighter. It was no longer just pain. It felt alive, like something inside him had woken up. The lead hunter looked at the mark and stopped. Silence filled the clearing. That mark, one of the other hunters said in a low voice. It has begun. The human did not understand their language fully, but he understood their tone. Shock, fear, anger. The lead hunter lowered his weapon slightly. The bond is active, he said. If we kill her now, the human dies too. The boy's heart pounded. Bond? What bond? The giant girl slowly lifted her head. Her bright blue eyes locked on his. She looked confused but also aware. She knew what had happened. The hunters spoke quickly among themselves. Their deep voices echoed through the trees. We were ordered to bring her heart, one said. But the bond changes everything, another replied. The leader turned back to the human. You have touched royal blood. Royal blood? The boy swallowed hard. The giant girl suddenly used the last of her strength. She pushed herself up slightly and let out a powerful scream. It was not a weak cry anymore. It was a signal. The trees shook. Birds flew into the sky. The valley answered her voice. The hunters stepped back. She is calling them, one growled. The leader's eyes narrowed. Retreat. The human blinked in shock. They were leaving? The armored giants slowly stepped back into the forest. But before disappearing, the leader pointed at him. You cannot run from the bond, human. The valley will not release you. Then they were gone. Silence returned. The boy fell to his knees, breathing hard. The giant girl collapsed again. He rushed to her side. Hey, stay with me. Her eyes slowly opened again. She studied his face carefully. This time, there was less fear in her expression. She lifted her hand and gently touched the glowing mark on his skin. The pain stopped. The mark still glowed, but softly now. A strange warmth filled his chest. Then something unbelievable happened. He heard her voice. Not with his ears. Inside his mind. You hear me? He gasped and looked around. Her lips had not moved. You are speaking, he whispered. Her eyes widened slightly. The bond allows thought. He could not believe it. He was hearing her. She tried to sit up, but winced in pain. He helped support her. What is this mark? He asked inside his thoughts. She closed her eyes for a moment. It is the guardian's bond, she replied slowly. It forms only when a life is saved freely. No fear. No grief. He remembered the moment he pulled the spear out. He had not thought about reward. He had only wanted her to live. You saved me, she continued. I'm a last guy guardian of my kind. His mind struggled to understand. Guardian of what? Of the gates between worlds. His breath caught. Worlds? She showed him a vision through the bond. For a second, he saw the sky split open like glass. He saw glowing doors floating in the air. He saw giant cities above the clouds. Then the vision ended. The humans once tried to control the gates, she said. They failed. War followed. He felt cold. My kingdom, he asked quietly. Yes. Her answer was calm. The truth hit him hard. His people had hunted her. Not monsters. Not beasts. But guardians. He stood up suddenly. I need to go back. I need to understand. The moment he stepped away from her, the mark flared bright red. Pain shot through his arm like lightning. He screamed and fell to the ground. The giant girl quickly grabbed his hand. The pain stopped again. Her eyes were sad. You cannot leave me, she said gently. He looked at her in disbelief. What do you mean? The bond is incomplete, she explained. Until I fully heal, your life is tied to mine. He shook his head. No, that's not possible. Try again, she said softly. He slowly stood up and took 3 steps away. The mark burned hotter than before. His vision blurred. His knees gave out. It felt like his heart was being squeezed. He crawled back toward her. The pain disappeared the moment he was close. He lay there breathing heavily. She watched him quietly. There is no return for now, she said. The wind moved through the broken trees. He stared at the glowing mark on his skin. No return. Not to his village. Not to his family. Not to the human world. He looked up at her towering figure. What happens when you heal? He asked. Her expression darkened slightly. Then the bond will choose its final path. And what is that path? She held his gaze. You will either become my protector, or you will cease to exist. The valley grew silent again, and for the first time, he understood the true price of saving her. The night after the battle did not feel real. The valley was quiet again, but not peaceful. Smoke still rose from broken trees. The ground was burned in black circles where the giant hunters had fallen. He sat beside her, breathing hard. The glowing mark on his hand had stopped burning, but it still shone with a soft blue light. She was awake now, weak, but alive. Her large wings were folded carefully behind her. One was still damaged, but it was healing slowly. The wound in her side had closed halfway, as if the light between them was helping her body repair itself. She looked at him in silence. Not like a hunter, not like prey, but like someone trying to understand something impossible. He did not know her language. She did not know his. But the bond between them had changed something. When she touched her chest, he felt a small warmth in his own chest. When she winced in pain, his mark pulsed. They were connected, not just by magic, by feeling. Suddenly, she moved closer and gently lifted him in her hand. He should have been afraid, but he was not. She stood slowly. Her full height rose above the trees. The forest looked small beneath her. Before he could speak, she bent her knees and jumped. The ground cracked. Wind rushed past his face. And then, they were in the sky. His heart almost stopped. She was flying. Her wings, even injured, carried them high above the valley. The world looked different from above. The human kingdom was visible far away, small towers, tiny walls, thin smoke rising from homes. But on the other side, beyond the mountains, he saw something he had never seen before. Massive stone cities, floating islands, bridges made of light connecting giant towers. The giant world. It was real, and it was hidden. She landed on a high cliff far from the valley. There were ruins there, old stone statues of giants with wings. Some were broken. Some had fallen. This was not just a random place. It was sacred. She gently placed him on the ground. Then she walked to one of the broken statues. It showed giants and humans standing together, not fighting, together. He stepped closer. On the statue, a human figure held a glowing mark on his hand. Just like him. His breath slowed. This had happened before. Long ago. She pointed to the statue, then to him, then to herself. Her eyes were serious. This bond was not new. It was ancient. Before he could think more, a loud horn echoed through the mountains. Deep, powerful, warning. She stiffened. Her head turned toward the sound. More giants were coming. Not hunters, warriors, and they were not friendly. The sky darkened as three massive winged figures flew toward the cliff. Their armor shone silver and gold. Their eyes were cold. They landed hard. The cliff trembled. One of them stepped forward. He reached the outer farms of the kingdom by sunset. Nothing looked different. Children ran in the fields. Farmers worked as usual. Life was normal. Too normal. He moved quietly toward the city walls. Guards stood at the gates, talking. The sky giant survived, one guard said. His heart stopped. They say the royal hunters failed. Then the king will send the red spears next. Red spears? Those were not normal soldiers. They were the elite unit. The ones trained to kill magical creatures. He slipped inside the city without being seen. He knew the back streets well. Soon he reached the old training yard near the castle. And there he saw something that made his stomach twist. A massive spear, just like the one that had been in her side, but smaller, human-sized, forged in silver metal, carved with strange runes. He moved closer and listened. A commander stood before a group of red spears. The last Sky Guardian must be captured alive, the commander said. The king wants her heart intact. Captured alive. His chest felt tight. Her heart holds the gate core, the commander continued. With it, we will control the sky gates. Murmurs spread through the soldiers. Once we control the gates, the commander said proudly, we control other worlds. Other worlds. The vision she showed him was real. The humans did not want peace. They wanted power. Unlimited power. He stepped back slowly, his thoughts racing. This was bigger than revenge. Bigger than old war. The king wanted to open the gates. And if that happened, the balance between worlds would break. Suddenly, someone grabbed his shoulder. He turned fast. It was his childhood friend, Tomas. "You're alive," Tomas whispered. "We thought you were dead." "I'm fine," he replied quickly. Tomas looked at him closely. "Where have you been?" "I was hunting. For 3 days." He had no answer. Tomas leaned closer. "Listen, the valley is cursed. The king says a giant demon is hiding there. Anyone who helps it will be executed." His throat went dry. "Executed? For helping a monster," Tomas added. "Monster?" He almost laughed at the word. If only they knew. Tomas lowered his voice. "The red spears leave at dawn. They won't fail." The mark on his hand suddenly grew warm. Not pain. Warning. Through the bond, he felt her fear. She sensed danger. He pulled his arm away gently from Tomas. "I have to go," he said. "Go where?" Tomas asked, but he was already running. He reached the city wall and climbed down the old path he used as a child. The moment he crossed back into the forest, the mark glowed brighter. Her presence in his mind became stronger. "They are coming," he said urgently. "I know," she replied softly. When he returned to the valley, she was standing. Not fully strong, but standing. Her wings were still damaged, but her eyes were no longer weak. "You went to them," she said. "Yes." "What did you learn?" He looked up at her towering figure. "They don't want you dead." Her expression did not change. "They want your heart." Silence filled the valley. The wind stopped. "They believe your heart can open the gates," he continued. "They're sending their strongest warriors." She closed her eyes for a moment. "The gate core," she whispered. "So, they discovered the truth." "What truth?" Her blue eyes locked onto his. "My heart is not just mine." The ground trembled softly beneath them. "It is the key to every world connected by the sky gates." His blood ran cold. "And if they take it?" he asked. She answered without emotion. "Then your king will not stop at this world." In the distance, a war horn echoed. Long, deep, powerful. The red spears had entered the valley. She looked down at him. "The time for hiding is over." The mark on his hand flared with golden light. And for the first time, he felt something new inside him. Not fear, not doubt, but power. The kingdom had made its choice. Now, so would he. The war horn echoed again. Closer this time. The sound rolled through the valley like thunder. He stood beside her, staring toward the forest entrance. The trees were shaking. Birds were flying away in panic. The red spears had arrived. She unfolded her wings slowly. They were still damaged, but stronger than before. Her eyes were calm now, not afraid, ready. Through the bond, he felt her thoughts clearly. They will not leave without blood. He swallowed. Then we don't let them win. The mark on his hand began to glow brighter. Not blue this time. Gold. Heavy footsteps entered the clearing. 10 red spears, each wearing dark red armor carved with silver runes. Each holding a glowing spear, the same kind that had pierced her body before. Their leader stepped forward, a tall man with a scar across his face. His eyes locked on the giant girl, then on the human standing beside her. His expression changed. "You," the leader said coldly. "Step away from the creature." "Creature." He did not move. "She is not your enemy," he shouted. The soldiers laughed. "You are marked," one of them said. "You have been corrupted." The leader lifted his spear. "By order of the king, the Sky Guardian will be taken alive. Anyone protecting her will be executed." The air became tight. The mark burned brighter. She stepped slightly in front of him. "No," he said through the bond. "This time, I stand with you." Her eyes flickered with surprise. Then, the first spear flew. It cut through the air like lightning. She twisted her body just enough for it to miss her heart, but it struck her shoulder. She roared, not in pain, but in anger. The battle began. She slammed her fist into the ground. The earth cracked. 2 soldiers fell as the ground split beneath them, but the red spears were trained. They moved fast. 3 more spears flew at once. He saw them coming. Without thinking, he raised his glowing hand. The mark exploded with light. A shield of golden energy formed in front of them. The spears hit the shield and shattered. Silence fell for half a second. Even the red spears looked shocked. He stared at his hand. He had not planned that. The power had acted on its own. The leader narrowed his eyes. "So the bond grants strength." He signaled. for soldiers ran toward him directly. Not toward her, toward him. They understood. Break the human. Break the bond. He tried to step back, but they were fast. One spear swung toward his chest. He ducked, barely avoiding death. Another soldier kicked him hard. He fell to the ground. Pain exploded in his side. He rolled just in time as a spear stabbed where his head had been. He was not trained like them. He was just a hunter. But the mark pulsed again. He felt her heartbeat. Strong. Steady. Her strength flowed through him. He stood up. Golden light spread across his arm like armor. The next spear hit him directly and bounced off. The soldiers froze. He did not feel fear anymore. He felt purpose. He grabbed one spear midair. The metal burned his hand, but the golden mark absorbed the energy. He snapped the spear in half. The leader's face darkened. "This is why the king fears the bond," he muttered. Behind him, she lifted into the air with a powerful jump. Even with damaged wings, she rose above the battlefield. The sky darkened. Clouds gathered unnaturally fast. Lightning flashed. She was calling the sky itself. The leader realized too late. "Fall back," he shouted. But it was too late. A bolt of lightning crashed into the ground between them. The explosion threw soldiers across the clearing. The earth shook violently. When the dust cleared, only 3 red spears remained standing. The rest were unconscious or unable to fight. The leader glared at them. "This is not over," he said coldly. "The king will come himself, if he must." He signaled retreat. The remaining soldiers grabbed the wounded and disappeared into the forest. Silence returned once more. Smoke drifted through the broken trees. He dropped to his knees, breathing heavily. The golden light faded slowly from his skin. She landed beside him. The storm above them calmed. "You protected me," she said softly through the bond. He shook his head. "We protected each other." But even as he said it, something felt different. The mark was no longer just glowing. It had changed shape. More lines. More symbols. The bond was evolving. She knelt closer to him. "You are becoming more than human," she said quietly. He looked down at his hand. The golden symbol now covered half his arm. He could still see the human kingdom far beyond the trees. His home. His past. But after what just happened, could he still belong there? In the distance, another horn sounded. Not a soldier's horn. Deeper. Heavier. More powerful. She stiffened. "That," she whispered inside his mind, "is the king's war signal." His heart pounded. "He's coming." "Yes." She looked at him seriously. "And when he arrives, he will not come as a man." The wind grew colder. The sky darkened again. And this time, it was not her calling the storm. The battle left the valley broken. Trees were burned to ash. The ground was split open. The red spears who survived had retreated, dragging their wounded back toward the kingdom walls. But the victory did not feel like victory. He stood in the center of the ruined clearing, breathing heavily. The golden light that had filled his body during the fight was gone. The mark on his hand no longer glowed blue. It burned white, hotter than ever before. She landed slowly behind him. Her wings were stronger now, almost healed, but her face was serious. "You felt it," she said through the bond. "Yes," he answered. His voice was tired. "What was that power?" "It was not power," she replied. "It was awakening." The air around them felt different, charged, like the sky before a storm. He looked down at his hand. The mark had changed shape. The simple symbol was now larger, more complex. Lines stretched up his arm like glowing veins. "What is happening to me?" he asked quietly. She stepped closer. Even at her size, her movements were gentle. "The bond is reaching its final stage." His heart skipped. "Final stage." She nodded slowly. When the guardian bond fully awakens, it does not remain half human, half giant. He stared at her. "What does that mean?" "It means you cannot remain what you were." Silence fell between them. In the distance, smoke from the kingdom still rose into the sky. He suddenly remembered his village, the small house near the river, his mother's garden, the laughter of children in the fields, his world. "Tell me clearly," he said. She did not look away. "If the bond completes, your body will remain human, but your existence will shift." He frowned. "Shift how?" "You will belong to the gates." He felt cold. "Explain." Her voice softened. The sky gates do not belong to giants alone. Long ago, they chose guardians for both races, humans and giants together. He remembered the broken statue on the cliff, the human with the glowing mark. That was real, he whispered. Yes. Then what happened? Fear, she answered. Your kings wanted control. Our elders wanted isolation. Trust broke. The mark pulsed again, stronger. And now, he asked, now the gates have chosen again. The ground trembled softly. Above them, the clouds began to move in a strange circle. The air grew heavy with energy. The red spears will return, she continued. But they are not the greatest danger anymore. He looked up at the swirling sky. What is? The gates are opening. As if her words had power, the sky cracked. A thin line of bright light split the clouds high above the valley. It was beautiful and terrifying. Through the crack, he saw shadows moving. Not giants, not humans. Something else. Something watching. His breath became shallow. They can sense the awakening bond, she said. Who are they, he asked. Worlds beyond ours. The crack in the sky grew wider. Wind rushed down into the valley, pulling leaves and dust into the air. The mark on his arm burned painfully. He dropped to one knee. This hurts, he gasped. She knelt beside him, her massive shadow covering him. It is deciding, she said. Deciding what? If you accept the bond willingly, or if you resist it. He looked at her, anger rising. You said I had a choice. You do. What is it? She placed her hand gently over his glowing arm. You can break the bond now. His eyes widened. Break it. It will cause great pain. I will weaken again. The gates will close. And me, you will return fully human. He swallowed. And if I don't break it, her eyes held deep emotion. Then your name will fade from the human world. He felt like the ground disappeared beneath him. What does that mean? It means they will forget you. His heart stopped. My family. She nodded slowly. They will remember they had a son, but not your face. Not your voice. He felt like someone struck him in the chest. Why? He whispered. Because a gate guardian cannot belong to one world alone. The sky above roared. The crack widened further. Strange lights flickered inside it. His mind raced. If he broke the bond, he could go home. Warn them. Protect them in another way. Live a normal life. But the gates would remain weak. The kingdom would keep trying. And someday, someone else would steal her heart. Or open the sky. If he accepted the bond, he would protect all worlds. But lose his own. Tears filled his eyes. He never asked for this. He only wanted to save a dying girl. The mark flared brighter. Pain shot through him again. The sky began to hum. I cannot choose for you, she said softly. I will not force you. The wind howled around them. The valley shook. He closed his eyes. He remembered his home. Then he remembered her lying in the dirt, bleeding. He remembered the statue of humans and giants standing together. He remembered the fear in the eyes of the red spears. If the gates opened fully under the wrong hands, not just one world would burn. All of them would. He slowly stood up. The pain did not stop, but he did not fall. He looked at her. I won't let them control the sky, he said firmly. Her eyes widened slightly. He took a deep breath. I accept it. The mark exploded with golden light. The crack in the sky answered, and the valley was swallowed by brilliance. The sky was no longer blue. It was split. A crack of golden light stretched across the clouds like a wound in the world itself. Wind screamed through the valley. Stones lifted from the ground. The air felt unstable. He stood beside her, the golden mark now covering his entire arm. The king had arrived, but not as a normal man. Above the valley, floating in the center of the crack in the sky, was a massive armored figure made of burning light and metal. It wore the shape of the human king, but larger, twisted by power. The gate core, energy, surrounded him. You see now, the king's voice thundered across the valley. This world is too small. I will open every gate. Behind him, the sky crack widened. Through it, strange lands were visible. Cities of fire, oceans of darkness, creatures moving in shadows. The sky gates were opening. She stepped forward, wings spread wide despite their damage. You will destroy the balance, she shouted into the storm. The king laughed. Balance is weakness. He looked down at the human boy. And you were born in my kingdom, yet you protect our enemy. He felt anger rise in his chest. She is not the enemy, he shouted back. Your greed is. The king lifted his hand. Golden chains of light shot downward. They wrapped around her body instantly. She roared in pain as the chains tightened, pulling her toward the sky. No, he screamed. The mark on his arm burned hotter than ever before. Through the bond, he felt her strength fading. If she was taken, the gates would fully open, and everything would fall. He looked up at the king, then at the glowing crack above, then at her. Her voice reached him softly inside his mind. It is time. For what? He asked desperately. The final stage. The golden mark began spreading beyond his arm, across his chest, toward his heart. He felt his memories shaking. His childhood home, his mother's voice, the smell of bread from the village ovens. They flickered like weak flames. You will lose your world, she said gently. Once the bond completes, you will no longer belong to it. He looked at the kingdom in the distance one last time. He understood now. He could never go back. Not because he was trapped, but because he had changed. The king pulled her higher. The sky crack widened. Creatures from other worlds began pushing against the opening. Time was ending. He made his choice. I stay, he said firmly. The mark exploded with blinding light. The chains around her shattered instantly. A shock wave burst from his body, knocking the king backward in the sky. He felt something inside him break, and something else awaken. The memories of his village faded softly, not erased with pain, but released, like letting go of something already gone. He rose into the air without wings. Golden light surrounded him completely. Not human, not giant, something new. The king stared in disbelief. You would abandon your own kind? The king roared. He looked at the armored giant figure in the sky. I am protecting them, he replied calmly. Then he raised his glowing hand toward the crack. The bond between him and her surged with ancient power. The statues in the valley lit up. The old alliance awakened. He could feel the sky gates themselves, not as objects, but as living pathways. He understood them now, and he closed them. One by one, the glowing cracks in the sky sealed shut. The creatures beyond screamed as the gates vanished. The king tried to fight, but without the open gates, his power faded quickly. The armor of light shattered around him. He fell from the sky like a normal man. The storm ended. Silence returned. He gently lowered back to the ground. The golden light around him softened, but it did not disappear. She stepped toward him slowly. Her eyes were wide. You have become the bridge, she whispered. He looked down at his hands. They still looked human, but the energy inside him felt endless. He turned toward the human kingdom. It looked the same, peaceful, unaware of how close it had come to destruction. He tried to remember the faces of his family clearly, but they were fading, like a dream after waking. There was no pain now, only acceptance. She stood beside him. What will you do? She asked softly. He took a slow breath. I will protect both worlds. High above, where the crack once was, a faint golden symbol remained glowing in the sky. A sign, a warning, a promise. In the human kingdom, the people would speak of a strange storm that night. They would speak of the king's sudden fall, but they would never remember the hunter who disappeared. And in the world above the trees, the giants would speak of the human who chose sacrifice over fear, not as a servant, not as a ruler, but as something greater, the guardian between worlds. He had lost his place in one world, but he had found his purpose in two. And this time, there was no returning, only protecting.